Hello, everyone. I am Jeffrey Snook Cosgrave. I'm a master's student here at UGA, and today I'm going to be going over managing coyote livestock predation in the state of Georgia. In this presentation, I aim to mostly go over non-lethal management, as I believe that's probably the most appropriate. Let's kick this presentation off properly and introduce the enemy. So, the coyote, Canis latrans, can be found throughout North America. Weighing in at about 25 to 40 pounds, with males generally being larger than females, coyotes are regarded as a medium-sized canine. Coyotes are omnivores, consuming both plants and animals, though there's generally little issue that arises from their plant consumption. Coyotes generally feed on smaller prey such as mice, rabbits, and even birds, as the Looney Tunes cartoon would suggest. Now, if you're having issues, but you weren't able to see who the culprit was, you need to know how to identify a coyote based off its tracks and its scat to know who the culprit is. So for the coyote tracks, you can see there's a set of three here to distinguish from. The coyote tracks tend to be more oval shaped and they point forward with that oval. As well as in the bottom of the pad paw right there is the presence of a central lobe right in the middle. You can notice that the gray wolf and the large dog both do not have that central lobe. Now, scat is probably the easiest way to determine whether it's a coyote or not, because coyote scat almost resembles old knotted rope would be the best way. You know, it can be broken up into pieces. It's generally large and cylindrical or tubular. It almost looks like dog scat, but it has hair in it generally, and it has that rope look is really what you want to look for. Issues with coyotes generally only arise when they start predating on livestock. The biggest problem that coyotes present to humans is their predation of livestock. Coyotes have been known to predate cattle, sheep, goats, poultry, and other commonly kept livestock species, as well as household pets such as cats and dogs. And you just can't have that. Next, I want to go over producer cost to give an important reason for why we care. So coyote predation on livestock ultimately is costly for the producer. All the time, effort, and money that the producer has put in for the year's calf crop goes out the door with the calf the coyotes drug under the fence. They earn nothing from it. Just to give you an idea, here's a graph here to kind of show an example. You can see the type of livestock from cattle, sheep, and goats, and pretty much all over the place except for cattle, just because they're a larger animal. It's over 50% loss from predators is related to coyotes. And that's a huge number. Coyotes cause livestock producers not only from a loss of livestock, but also the cost of prevention and management of coyotes. So this is not only the cost that they're facing, the loss of animals, they also have to in turn put cost forward and put money forward to help prevent these. And let's go over some ways that you can prevent coyote predation, the non-lethal ways. So today we're going to be talking about light deterrence, noise deterrence, improved fencing, fertility control and repellents, as well as guard animals. Light deterrents for coyotes can be as simple as a light that you keep on over your livestock at night, but they can be as complicated as having revolving, flashing, and strobe lights. These revolving, flashing, and strobe lights are regarded to be more effective, though, than just a standalone light, and generally all of them use motion sensors. As you can see, there's another light deterrent here. This little gray picture, as you can see, this is actually an electronic guard. It is a siren with a strobe light built in, so it's kind of a mixture between the two of the light deterrent and the noise deterrent, but it was actually developed by the USDA Wildlife Services Program. It is now made by other manufacturers and can be purchased, but it's still a really cool option that the USDA went ahead and put forward for us. Now, noise deterrents, they're generally a little bit more simple and not as fun. So a big one that you see is bells worn by livestock, which I mostly see in movies, but I think it's a good option. But one I've seen a lot of places would be a radio left on. I find in a lot of operations I've been on, you will find radios left on in the barns and in the feed rooms especially to help prevent not only coyotes but other animals from coming on in. Continuing on with our non-lethal management options, a big one is improved fencing. Now, this is not really practical on a large scale, but if you have a small pen that you bring your animals in, say when they're lambing or calving, or you bring them close to the house, it might not be a bad idea to invest in some improved fencing, especially if you have high levels of predation from coyotes. Generally, a net wire is suggested, which is a bummer over barbed wire, I know. But to prevent digging under the fence, they suggest you have barbed wire at the bottom or you even bury fencing as an apron. prevent jumping over the fence, they say to build it at least 5.5 feet high. And then one of the funniest things I thought was to prevent them from climbing over the fence. If jumping wasn't enough, they suggest you run barbed wire at the top or even an electric wire to prevent the coyotes from getting over. They relentless animals. Now, fertility control and repellents for coyotes. Unfortunately, no fertility control actually exists for coyotes. And currently, there are no effective repellents for coyotes, but these would be great options in the future once they become available. Lastly, my personal favorite non-lethal management option for coyotes would be guard animals. You have the Great Pyrenees, you have donkeys, and you have llamas that are all used as guard animals for coyotes. And they tend to work really well with sheep, as you can see all of my pictures. I find that cows tend to take care of themselves a little bit more, but I've seen donkeys with cows and I've seen alpacas with cows. Never seen a Great Pyrenees away from a cow or away from a sheep, but it's an option. I've actually worked on a facility at Montana State's Red Bluff Research Ranch, and they used all three of these options. They had alpacas, donkeys, and a ton of these big white dogs roaming around the property to protect the ewes and the lambs. But these are options, and I think they work very well. Lastly, I want to thank you for tuning into my presentation, and I want to give a shout out to all my wonderful sources. My biggest source would have been the USDA, but I found a couple other sources that were very helpful in making this presentation as well. Thanks for tuning in.